So now we're going to move on, and on my wonderful floating iPad, we're going to talk about Apteco's roadmap, vision and AI mission. And this is a chance for me just to tell you a little bit about what we're aiming to do next, where we're up to. But let's start by just noting the things that are going to happen pretty much immediately. After the announcements on Friday, we have lots of actions that the Apteco team are committed to undertake for you. First of all, we're going to ship our Q4 release of Designer, Fast Stats and People Stage, and that's the platform that we will then use to enable the campaign goals, objectives, triggered events and landing pages. So that mechanism, that new mechanism for tracking campaign goals and objectives, to hit a target or to show a target progress, and our new mechanisms for landing pages. Those are based on the Q4 release. So once that's available, if you choose to update to the Q4 release, then you will get these new capabilities in orbit. On the back of that, we also introduce the ability to create our campaign dashboard. So again, you'll need to update to run the most recent software. And we generally commend you to update to our releases. I know each organisation, each partner has its own policies, but in general, we see fewer problems, fewer questions with those people who stay up to date than the people who use older and sometimes mismatched versions of the software. So do try and stay up to date if you can. Our tech services team will be very pleased to hear that and to try and help keep you up to date. So we're also, as you know, rolling out our self-service mapping capability. You can now upload your own GeoJSON files. We've enabled Apteco SMS already, but obviously our teams have some work to do to deploy that for you and for the customers who are interested in it. And then early next year, we will do the work, or we'll deliver on all the work that's been going on during the last year for the Apteco CDP. We expect to make that accessible in Apteco Cloud in January. Subject, of course, to testing. We will only make it available when we are happy that the version 1 spec works as we intended. There will be many things it won't yet do at that point. We acknowledge those, and we will keep progressing it with the bi-weekly, once every 2 weeks, sprint updates, which will be able to update the CDP as well as the Orbit user interface capabilities. And in amongst those updates, we will also provide the update for the multi-measure, multi-dimension charts that I've described. We've built a great big test rig for, and we will provide, through those sprint updates, access to Orin. Of course, we will communicate about those updates. But I thought you might be interested to see our roadmap. Some of you visit the roadmap on apteco.com. This is a small section of it. It's just the features that are tagged as Apteco Live 2024 deliverables. This is what our product teams, shown down the left-hand side of the roadmap grid, have been working on with the goal of delivering these for Apteco Live 2024. And they've done a magnificent job getting all of this set of features ready for me to talk about. It's my privilege to represent them, to talk about their work. And the feature flow we're achieving at the moment is the most extraordinary. I've run Apteco for 37 years. We've never had a feature flow like the flow that we've achieved in the last year. And here's an indication of the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. Actually, when you look the next layer down on the DevOps board and the user stories that we use and the test framework, it all just has a multiplication effect with more and more specifics that we work through to bring the benefits of those features to you. So that's the features that are tagged for Apteco Live 2024. If I move on, you can see two of those highlighted that I didn't have time to mention on Friday. The first is Google Analytics reporting in Orbit. We've integrated Google Analytics into the campaign overview screen in Orbit. So if you're using UTM tracking codes on emails or on WhatsApp messages, for example, both of which we can support for you, we can now retrieve the Google Analytics metrics for those UTM codes for that specific campaign and show them in the Apteco Orbit campaign overview. So you don't have to go to Google Analytics to see those numbers. We show, from memory, I think it's 8 numbers from the Google Analytics summary, and we give you a link directly on that overview page that allows you to go into your Google Analytics account to see that same data in GA. So bringing those results closer, making them more visible, helping you surface them and see them, closing the loop around the marketing activity. The second topic highlighted there is for those of you using Apteco Email. We now have the ability to let you drill down to individual recipients in a target group that you've used, an audience that you have used, to see the outcomes. So if somebody has or an email address has bounced, or somebody has opted out and unsubscribed, for example, you will be able to see that within the Apteco Orbit campaign area. So making it easier to do the sort of things you might have done previously in an ESP, an email service provider. Now we're providing those functions directly inside Apteco Orbit. But looking a little further across the horizon, we have 3 product teams. The Connect team are responsible for Apteco CDP, and most of their work, as well as supporting Apteco Cloud over the coming months, will be to do with delivery of that CDP and extending its capabilities. Now, we don't decide months in advance exactly what will be delivered when. We have a roadmap, we have priorities, and I've given you a broad indication here of some of the sort of topics that we will be working on. One of the first is to attempt to obtain certification as a real CDP according to the CDP Institute. We've joined the CDP Institute now that we have a CDP product, and we are going to submit that product for certification. You can't actually submit it before it's released as a product, and we only released it on Friday. So we'll be talking to David Raab and his team at the CDP Institute to see if we can obtain that certification. And that's to show you that we've done proper work, that it's technically accomplished as a customer data platform. But we will also be working on the identity resolution rules. We'll be looking at how we can provide API access as well as the UI that I demonstrated to you on Friday. We'll look at how we can expand the data model to allow different structures like households or businesses, or different communication contact points. So beyond the mobile, email, landline and physical addresses, there may be other contact methods we want to identify and support in the standard data model. And that might bring us to the point where we can use external identity graphs that allow us to understand the connections between device IDs, cookie IDs, individuals, email addresses, and so on. None of that is set in stone. We will be reacting to how you get on with deploying the CDP, what our experiences are of running it in Apteco Cloud. We may find that there are other topics that become the primary ones. But you can always visit the Apteco roadmap, as I'll show you in a moment, to see our expected delivery. Our Analyze team, providing analytics, will be continuing to extend what we can do in the analytics area, the dashboards and the audiences, and providing further train of thought tools and enhancements to the existing tools in the audience area so that you can follow your train of thought through that arena. Looking, for example, at an RFV, recency, frequency, value tool, how we calculate marketing metrics, and the broad unification of dashboard and audience tools so that you can bring together what you see on a dashboard, turn it into an audience, work on it in an audience tool, and take that result back and make a tile of it that you put on another dashboard or back into the same dashboard. And you've seen some of that capability already, but we've worked on it. We've got more to do to bring that fully together. But the Analyze team take our responsibility for Orin. That's where we developed Orin, and we will continue to develop Orin with the 3 tiers that I spoke of on Friday: the knowledge guide with Orin able to tell you how to use Apteco and what Apteco does, the data navigator that is able to understand the data that you've got in the Apteco marketing platform, and then the solution builder that brings those two together in order to create solutions with the guidance from Orin. All of that is underpinned by the secure foundations that we've given Orin, maintaining the guardrails and safety level that ensures that he can only give appropriate responses to minimise the mistakes he makes. And we know that he can make mistakes at the moment, but we want to minimise those. And to do that, we are extending the ground truths that we give him as fact that he can rely on about the Apteco platform. We will expand programmatically his data interpretation and description skills as he learns how to use the characteristics of the variables and the tables that you've loaded into your Apteco platform. And we will programmatically extend the solutions that he's capable of building and handling. So at the moment, as I demonstrated on Friday, we've just reached the point where Orin can create audiences and do some simple actions on those audiences. We're going to teach him how to do more of those. He uses his language skills to understand your request. We use the hard-edged, accurate numeric processing and functionality in Apteco to allow you to create or to action the suggestions that he makes. And to support that, we now prepare documentation specifically arranged in a manner that Orin can learn from, that Orin can use. But we will be interested in the feedback we get from users. How do they use Orin? What are the requests that are deemed successful or not successful, for example? And moving on to our campaign team, there's a rich array of functionality that the campaign team will be delivering, adding contact strategy for campaigns, enhancing our live data mechanism for real-time triggers, introducing seeds and A/B testing control groups into our wonderful multi-stage campaigning journey builder and the steps that it uses, adding the ability to group campaigns so they're easy to find when you've got a set of campaigns that are related, and extending the campaign dashboards that I showed you on Friday with a single click. You'll be able to now create a dashboard. We expect to enhance those with more visualizations as we go along. And enhancements don't just come to Orbit, they also come to PeopleStage, where we've got improvements for archiving, or the Journey Builder in Orbit, for example, where we want to improve the display of the counts as people flow through the journey. And finally, in the ones I've called out, introducing Google Ads support in Orbit Campaign. It's already in PeopleStage. We want to put it into Orbit Campaign. Now, all of that work I've picked from our roadmap. And this is the broader roadmap, not just the features targeted for Apteco Live 24, but this is the epics view. That's the top level or summary view of those topics. And this changes every day. And this is the picture of the roadmap as it was on Friday. It quite possibly has already moved on as our product teams deliver against those epics. But if I zoom in, you can see the detail of the features underpinning that. As I said, there's a lot of detail, layer upon layer, as you drill into our development process, our testing process, and the documentation that we use. I don't expect you to read that. You know, it's great having got a massive iPad. I could stand back and admire it, but it's just to give you an indication of the level of detail. Each of those blue text items you can click on. If you go to apteco.com, log in and go to the roadmap, you can click on those to see more. But we also have a vision for wider development, a vision of how Apteco can continue to develop. And over the last few years, we've tackled major topics. We've tackled how we undertake those topics. But we want to ensure that we do so with value, that we innovate in the software that we provide for you, that we provide skilled services in support of that software, that we always focus on the quality of what we provide for you in order to be a reliable partner, supplier and employer in the software industry. We are an ISV, an independent software vendor, keen to ensure that we are a great partner and supplier for you. And that's why we run this conference. It's why we communicate about what we're doing and what's forthcoming. We want to do so while minimising our environmental impact. So we burn no fossil fuels at Apteco UK. We've got solar panels on the roof of the building. We've got a hydroelectric scheme at our log cabin in the woods. We try to make as minimum impact. We tread lightly as far as we can. But as I said, we tackle major topics. And in recent years, we've delivered significant enhancements. We've grown the company, we've grown the development team, we've grown the commercial teams in order to provide the feature flow that I mentioned earlier. So just looking back over the last couple of years, we've delivered multi-stage, multi-channel campaigns. We've delivered Apteco email on board inside the product. We've delivered 24-hour-a-day, 5-day-a-week support with an employed member of Apteco available to answer your critical care calls if you contract for that level of support. And we have contracts in place now for 24-hour, 5-day-a-week support around the globe. We've just shown that we have got Apteco SMS live and running. We have introduced you to the CDP. It's not in production yet, but will be, we hope, in January. And we've shown you our Gen AI Orin planned for early 2025. So those are big topics. And sometimes it's helpful to have big topics to think about. And the next one that we're going to think about is going anonymous. Extending the Apteco marketing platform to capture anonymous page visits in order that we can start building understanding of those interactions, in order that we can help you when someone visits your brand pages anonymously on a device with a particular browser, with a particular cookie ID or device ID if it's available, in order that we can then help how you interact with that particular device and browser combination and the person behind it who you don't know the identity yet, but you may do in time. And so there's all sorts of challenges, but it is possible that we can provide you with anonymous targeting for that cookie ID, that device ID, that person behind that browser and device combination to allow you to identify audiences or segments and to prepare best next offer. If someone has been on your brand page and looked at products 1, 2 and 3, we can help you suggest product number 4 as the next thing. Or if they've been looking at donations or events or supporter opportunities, let's try and guide them using your analytics strength in the Apteco platform to the best event or the best donation structure that they can use while they're anonymous, but with the expectation that we can de-anonymise them, we can identify them in due course when they click a tracked link, when they authenticate by logging in, when they take an action on the website that requires them to identify themselves for an online session or a delivery, for example. Now, we have a prototype running at Apteco. It's at the very first stages. One of our developers, Sarah Lou, developed a prototype around our response mechanism that allows us to run a tag on a page and capture that back into Apteco. But there are still many, many topics for us to resolve. The technical structures for handling anonymous data alongside identified data, the sizing of that data and the web channel integration that allows us to talk to the CMS or the e-commerce platform in order to help suggest the best next offer or the segment or the treatment that anonymous device and cookie combination may be suitable for. And the whole challenge of de-anonymisation to identify those people. And of course, we've got to think about the commercials and the pricing. How on earth are we going to fit all of that amongst our standard model? So we don't have the answers for all of that. Just like last year, we didn't have all the answers about AI, but we took responsibility last year to understand it. And that's the responsibility we take this year. And so we're going to do a series of research spikes to grow our understanding. And one of the reasons Orin, we believe, has been a successful project is we took time to understand the market, to talk to users, and we're going to do exactly the same again. So we'll start with a technical research spike, as we call it, a short bit of work to understand the topic, then a commercial spike to understand the commercial positioning of technologies like this, a regulation spike to understand what the regulators expect, what is their future for first-party cookies, for example, and device IDs. How do we expect that identifier to be used? It's under scrutiny, isn't it? It has been for 10 years, but the market seems to be evolving relatively slowly. And first-party cookies are a very different beast than third-party cookies. And if we can tag your site and you can pull that data back to Apteco, then we may well be able to fit within regulatory control a very effective mechanism for improving the experience for your donors, your supporters, your customers, your prospects, the people who are visiting your site. And of course, we will do user research. So we'll come and talk to you, partners and customers, and our product managers are all ears, interested to hear what you think of the developments that we undertake.